Oh yeah. So on the back where you're gonna glue, we're just gonna do some practice problems. So the first one, a greatest common factor. What's the greatest common factor there? You're welcome. Do you need one too? Oh, you got one. It's what? 6x. So if I take out the 6x, then I write my answer with the 6x outside the parentheses, and that gives me x minus 6 as my answer. And the greatest common factor next? Is there an x? Why? There's no x here, right? So you can't divide them all by an x. You can only divide by 3. And this is your answer. And then what kind of factoring is this? It's perfect square, right? These are the ones we like. They're easy. What do you have to have? Plus and a minus. So I get x plus 2 and x minus 2. How about this one? Is that a perfect square? Yes? And this one, what do I have to do? Do the GCF. And what is the GCF here? So if I take out a 2, can I factor this now? Because now it's a perfect square. And then here, can I factor that one? Is 1 a perfect square? So yesterday, this is what we did. Do not get back on your phones. We did the A times C. So A times C was negative 10 and B was 9. So I want factors of 10 that add or subtract to 9. 1 and 10. And which one's 1 and 10 is 11. Which one is negative? 1. So now 10 minus 1 is 9, and 10 times negative 1 is negative 10. So I'm good. So I'm going to take what's right here, which is x. I wrote it in the parentheses, and then I get plus 10 and minus 1. So for the next one, A times C is negative 35 and negative 2. So I want factors that multiply to negative 35 but add to negative 2. Seven and 5, but 7 times 5 is a positive 35. Why negative 7 and not negative 5? Because the 2 wants to be negative, right? So negative 7 plus 5 is negative 2. So we get y minus 7 and y plus 5. So if I had to count, how many terms are there? 3. It's a trinomial, right? So do you think I can do the same thing if I have 4 terms? Because this is an A times C. Where's my A times C? My A is here, and my C is here, so I don't have that term. So I can't do the same thing. So here's what I'm going to do. First of all, is there a greatest common factor here? No. So if there's no greatest common factor, then the next thing you want to do is I want to make 2 groups. Okay? So I'm going to take the first 2 and the last 2. So here, I'm going to write 3x to the third plus 6x squared. And then I'm going to have these 2 are going to be in the first group, and these 2 are in the second group. And the third step says factor out a GCF from each group. So just look at the first 2 right here. So 3x to the third plus 6x squared, what do they have in common? 3x squared, right? Because if you look at these two, 3 is the number, the greatest common factor, and the lowest exponent between the two is the 2. So that's how I got 3x squared. So I'm going to write this way. I'm going to put 3x squared, and then I'm going to divide. So I get x plus 2 in the parentheses. So then, what do these two have in common? 4. So go ahead and divide 4 on both of them. Come on, baby. Come on, baby girl. So when I divide 4, so does anybody see anything on this line now? What's the same? You see the parentheses are the same? So that's the first thing. I'm going to write x plus 2 because those are the same. And then what's left outside the parentheses? Those are outside the parentheses, right? So I'm going to take those, and now it's factored. So let's do another one. So the first thing you want to look at is their greatest common factor. 6, 3, 4, and 2. Anything all the way down the line? No. So we're going to look at the first two. What's the greatest common factor with the first two? 3x squared. So I'm going to write 3x squared times 2x minus what? What's 3 divided by 3? 1. You got to put the 1 there. And then what do these have in common? 2. So I'm going to put plus 2 times 2x minus 1. What do they have in common? The 2x minus 1. And then what's left over? Yeah. There's one more thing. One more. But it's not any harder. So, before I do the next one, so what sign was between the two groups? Positive. On the first one, what sign is between it? Positive. And you always need this to be a plus. And if it's not a plus, you have to divide by a negative. So that's the only thing you have to remember, because right here, what's between them this time? Negative, okay? So watch. What do these have in common? 3 and, but it starts with a negative, so I'm going to divide by negative. So negative 3x squared. And so when I divide, I get 4x plus 5. And then 16 and 20, what did they have in common? 4, but it has to be negative, right, because of the negative. So I'm going to divide by negative 4. So I write negative 4 right there. And so when I divide, I get 4x plus 5. And now what's inside the parentheses? Match. And this is left over. Okie dokie. How about the next one? What do the first two have in common? Actually, you guys try this one yourself while I take attendance. So when I divide out the y, I get y squared plus 1. And this is negative, so I have to divide by negative 5. So these match. And this is left over. Okay. Any questions? Do you have is the next one on yours? Okay, one more. Yeah. Where? Here? Yeah. If you don't put the plus 1, it's going to be wrong. Because what's 5 divided by 5? 1. It was y divided by y. 1. It's not nothing, but it's 1, right? No. What's 5 divided by 5? What's 10 divided by 10? So y divided by y is 1. And it does make a difference because it's the difference between having no Diet Coke and 1 Diet Coke. I'm opting for the 1 Diet Coke every time over no Diet Coke, right? You can't just leave it off. Okay. So the next one, what's the greatest common factor here? So I'm going to get 3x times x squared plus 4. And then I'm going to divide by negative 4. And that's going to leave me x squared plus 4. Is the x squared plus 4 a perfect square? Yes or no? So the plus in between is okay? It's not. You can't factor because of the plus. So I'm going to get x squared plus 4 times 3x minus 4.